She gave up on her relationship because of her sister. What really happened? Let's find out together. Hello guys, today we bring you another fascinating movie on your screen, one that will definitely blow your mind. I'm pretty sure you'll love this one. But before we dive in, why don't you grab some snacks and subscribe to this channel for more amazing movies from us. This movie opens with a beautiful young lady named NNEBE choosing an outfit for a date she's planning to go on. Before leaving, she says a little prayer, hoping the date ends in a positive way. A few minutes later, NNEBE is ready to go out when her elder sister, Muna, walks in and asks where she's heading. NNEBE truthfully tells her that she's going on a blind date with a guy she met on a dating site. Muna insists on going with her, but NNEBE persuades her not to, and finally leaves alone. If only NNEBE knew what she was about to step into. On the date, NNEBE gets irritated by the way her date is eating and talking. He sounds so uncultured. From her facial expressions, it's clear she's already regretting coming. While they're chatting, NNEBE gets fed up and decides to leave, but her date, Sam, stops her and rudely tells her to pay for the food. Then he pushes her back. Suddenly, a young man appears out of nowhere, defends NNEBE, and teaches Sam a lesson. He orders him to apologize, which Sam reluctantly does. The stranger then takes NNEBE home and introduces himself as Desmond. She thanks him and collects his contact before going inside. Later that night, NNEBE tells Muna what happened on her date and how Desmond rescued her. She can't stop blushing as she gushes over how handsome Desmond is. Muna just listens quietly. That same night, while working on her laptop, NNEBE contemplates calling Desmond, but wonders if he might be married. She doesn't want to cause any trouble. Meanwhile, Desmond, also working on his laptop, keeps glancing at his phone, clearly expecting a call from her. When NNEBE finally calls, she thanks him again, and they end up chatting and laughing for a long time. The next day, Desmond calls NNEBE and tells her he's outside her house. She goes out to meet him, and he gives her a gift bag containing a beautiful dress. He invites her to go on a date with him, and she happily agrees. A few days later, Muna rushes into the room, excited to tell NNEBE she's been transferred to another branch at work. NNEBE celebrates with her. Muna notices NNEBE is already dressed up and asks where she's going. NNEBE says Desmond invited her to a party, and Muna quietly leaves the room. The next day, Desmond is in his office when Muna walks in. She's been transferred to his branch to work in the finance department. She's stunned by how handsome he is. Desmond gives her a form to fill, but she can't stop staring at him. Later that day, when Muna gets home, she tells NNEBE how good-looking her new boss is. She knows him by another name, Mr. Eze. NNEBE warns her to calm down, but Muna doesn't care. She's already falling head over heels for Mr. Eze. Could it be the same Desmond NNEBE is dating? A few days later, Desmond invites NNEBE to his house. She's amazed by how beautiful it is and can't stop admiring the place. They share a glass of wine and chat. NNEBE tells him she's a writer and opens up about how her sister has been her backbone since their parents passed away. Desmond feels deeply moved by her story. The next day, Desmond and NNEBE go out for lunch and have a great time together. A week later, Desmond has a work-related meeting with Muna. During the meeting, she gets distracted and places her hand on his. Desmond quickly pulls back, leaving Muna embarrassed. She leaves his office, and Desmond is left wondering what's going on. Later that evening, NNEBE visits Desmond's house with some groceries to cook for him. He's all smiles, clearly happy to see her. The next day, Muna brings lunch for Mr. Eze at work. At first, he's confused, but he eventually thanks her and accepts it. That night, while they're watching TV, Muna complains to NNEBE that Mr. Eze doesn't seem to notice her feelings. She tells her sister she took lunch to him earlier that day. NNEBE just advises her to try another way to get his attention. The next morning, Muna dresses in a skimpy outfit, ready for work. NNEBE sees her and calls her back, telling her the dress is inappropriate for the office. But Muna insists it might catch Mr. Eze's attention. NNEBE begs her to change into something more decent, and eventually she does. Later that same day at the office, Muna went to give Mr. Eze a file. Then, out of curiosity, she asked if he was married. He was surprised by the question, but calmly replied that he wasn't. Feeling relieved, Muna boldly asked her boss out on a date. Mr. Eze was stunned by her audacity but eventually accepted, and Muna was overjoyed. The next day, Muna was doing her makeup while Onyinye helped her pick an outfit. Onyinye was equally excited that her sister was going on a date. If only Onyinye knew that her Desmond and Muna's boss, Mr. Eze, were the same person, and that both sisters were in love with the same man. On the date, while Muna and Mr. Eze were chatting, Onyinye called him just to check up on him. They talked briefly before he returned to his date with Muna. During the conversation, Muna opened up about how she felt about him. Mr. Eze was speechless. Later that night, Muna couldn't hold her excitement. She told Onyinye how the date went, adding that she was sure Mr. Eze was beginning to have feelings for her. Onyinye smiled and suggested that Muna should invite Mr. Eze over for her upcoming birthday. She also planned to invite Desmond, not knowing they were the same person. Muna loved the idea immediately. The next day, Onyinye visited Desmond's house to tell him she had finally finished the book she'd been working on. Desmond was happy for her and promised to sponsor the publishing of her book. Onyinye was left speechless by his generosity. She also told him about her sister's birthday and invited him to come, which he gladly accepted. The following day at the office, Muna told Mr. Eze about her birthday and invited him to attend. He politely declined, saying he had another engagement that same day. Muna's excitement quickly faded as she left his office looking disappointed. A few days later, it was Muna's birthday. Onyinye was setting the table when she heard a knock at the door. She opened it and saw Desmond standing there. Overjoyed, she hugged him, but suddenly, Muna came out of her room and froze. Standing before her was her boss, Mr. Eze. Both Desmond and Onyinye were shocked and speechless. Onyinye had to pretend she didn't know him. When Muna asked about Desmond, Onyinye lied that he couldn't make it, not realizing Desmond and Mr. Eze were the same person. They all sat down to eat, with Muna smiling happily, completely unaware of the tension between her sister and her Mr. Eze. Desmond and Onyinye, on the other hand, were still in disbelief about the shocking revelation. When Muna escorted Mr. Eze to the door after dinner, Onyinye remained inside, trying to process everything. She and her sister, in love with the same man? What was she supposed to do now? Later that night, Desmond called Onyinye, but she was heartbroken. She accused him of two-timing her and her sister. Desmond tried to explain that nothing was going on between him and Muna, but Onyinye refused to listen and ended the call. That same night, Muna also called Mr. Eze to thank him for attending her birthday. She wished him good night and ended the call with a smile. The next day, Muna and Onyinye were cooking in the kitchen when Muna mentioned she was preparing the food for Mr. Eze. Onyinye felt a deep sting in her heart, but hid her pain and continued cooking. Later that day at work, Muna took the food to Mr. Eze. He thanked her politely, and she left his office smiling, thinking everything was going well. Meanwhile, Desmond went to Onyinye's house to clear the misunderstanding. Onyinye bluntly told him she wanted nothing to do with him because her sister was in love with him. Desmond insisted that he loved only her, not Muna. But Onyinye begged him to be with Muna for her sake. She couldn't bear to see her sister heartbroken. The conversation turned tense, and she eventually asked him to leave. That night, Muna entered Onyinye's room and found her secretly crying. When she asked what was wrong, Onyinye quickly pretended she was fine. They talked briefly before Muna went back to her room. The next day, Muna brought lunch for Mr. Eze again, but this time he snapped. He shouted, asking why she kept bringing him food and what she really wanted from him. Shocked and embarrassed, Muna apologized and turned to leave. But then Mr. Eze called her back, apologized for raising his voice, and accepted the food. He also offered to drop her off after work, and Muna happily accepted. Later that evening, after work, Mr. Eze drove Muna home and followed her inside. Onyinye was stunned when she saw him. When she asked what he was doing there, he said he came to see her. They got into an argument about his relationship with Muna, but Desmond, Mr. Eze, insisted he wasn't interested in her. Frustrated, Onyinye told him she didn't love him anymore, which made him leave angrily. That same night at dinner, Muna told Onyinye she was thinking of officially asking Mr. Eze to be her boyfriend. Onyinye almost choked on her food in shock. She tried to warn Muna, asking if she was sure Mr. Eze felt the same way, and advised her to let him make the first move. But Muna had already made up her mind. She was determined to confess her feelings. What happens when two sisters fight for the same man? Who will Desmond choose, love or loyalty? The next day, NNEBE went to see Desmond. She told him she had a request to make, but before she could say what it was, Desmond asked her if she loved him. NNEBE remained quiet, but from the look on her face, it was clear she truly did. They ended up having an intimate moment together in the bedroom. While in bed, NNEBE told Desmond that Muna wanted to ask him to be her boyfriend and begged him to accept Muna's offer. Desmond was not comfortable with that idea. He immediately ended their relationship because he didn't want to come between two sisters. NNEBE went home crying. Muna saw her and asked what happened. NNEBE told her that Desmond had broken up with her, and Muna comforted her. The next day, Muna went to Mr. Eze's office with a gift bag containing flowers, a card, and a bottle of wine. Mr. Eze threw the card and flowers away, then told her to focus on her work and that he was not interested in a relationship with her. He asked her to leave his office. Later that night, Muna was sitting in the living room crying when NNEBE came in and asked what was wrong. Muna explained how Mr. Eze rejected her and how embarrassed she felt. The next day, NNEBE angrily went to Desmond's place to confront him, but he didn't give her the chance to speak. He shut the door in her face. A few weeks later, NNEBE came out of the bathroom holding a pregnancy test. It was positive. When Muna came into her room, NNEBE quickly tried to hide it, but Muna noticed and asked what she was hiding. When Muna saw the test, she was shocked and disappointed. She demanded to know who was responsible for the pregnancy, but NNEBE refused to say. Muna left the room angrily. Immediately, NNEBE tried calling Desmond, but he didn't answer. She then sent him a voice note, asking to meet because she had something important to tell him, not knowing that Muna overheard everything. Later that same day, NNEBE met with Desmond at their favorite lounge and told him she was pregnant. Desmond was excited and overjoyed at the news, but NNEBE wasn't pleased that he had been ignoring her calls. While they were talking, Muna sat at a distance, watching. She wanted to know who got NNEBE pregnant, and to her greatest shock, she saw that it was Mr. Eze. NNEBE was equally shocked when she saw Muna approaching and tried to explain. Desmond quickly stepped in and told Muna everything. How he had known NNEBE long before Muna was transferred to his branch, and how NNEBE broke up with him after realizing Muna was also interested in him. Muna was speechless and walked away, deeply hurt. NNEBE followed her home. At home, Muna sat in the living room crying. NNEBE joined her and they talked. NNEBE explained that she only wanted Muna to be happy because of all the sacrifices she had made for her while growing up. Muna also apologized to NNEBE for hurting her. They cried and consoled each other. A few days later, Muna walked in with Desmond. She told NNEBE that everything had been settled and that nothing would make her happier than seeing her sister happy. Muna excused them, and NNEBE was overjoyed to see Desmond again. They hugged each other warmly. Months later, NNEBE was heavily pregnant. Desmond lovingly massaged her feet while Muna came in. They exchanged pleasantries, and Muna went straight to the kitchen to prepare food. The moral lesson of this movie is, true love is not built on deceit or rivalry. Sometimes, letting go for the happiness of others brings more peace than holding on. Forgiveness, understanding, and family bonds are stronger than any relationship. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment your thoughts, and of course, subscribe to this channel for more captivating movies from us.